Hi guys, and welcome to lesson number 4 on our series on fiction on legal white. So I'm just going to move myself there. So today we are going to be analysing sentence structures. This is a really short lesson and it's just going to cover how you would talk about sentence structures and how you would construct a paragraph that would answer on sentence structures and their purpose and effect. Now, the reason we're doing this is because it is one of the bullet points to question number 2, is that you can analyse not just the language in terms of word choice and methods, but also the kind of sentences the writer is using and the effect that those are intended to have. So again, if you haven't watched the previous videos, you need to go and do that first. So check out the other ones on my channel, make sure you caught up, and then pick up with this lesson. For the rest of you who are ready for it, here we go. So the objective for this lesson will be to classify and analyse the sentence structures used by the writer. Obviously, when I say the writer, I'm referring to Robert Galbraith, the author of Lethal White. And we're looking at the effects that these create for the reader today. So as you can see, I've put Ant-Man on the PowerPoint here as a bit of a reminder that size and structure of sentences is going to be what we are analysing. So for your starter, I've given you a scrambled up sentence in the red box over here, and I'd like you to try and reorder it. So write it in the correct order. You'll need to rewrite that out, put the words in an order that you think makes more logical sense as a correct grammatically structured sentence. Once you've done that, we're going to talk about the challenge. So pause the video and complete the starter now. Right, for those of you that have done your starter, your challenge. If you wanted to add tension and suspense to a piece of writing, what kind of sentence structures would you be using and why? Do you think that a short, simple sentence would be better at building tension and suspense? Or a long and complex compound sentences? Which of those do you think would be more effective in building up tension and suspense? So have a think about that and then write down the answer to that question. Which would you use? And you've got to be able to say why. So I don't want just a bullet point answer. I want you to choose one and then explain why you think that that would be more effective in building up tension and suspense. Right, so we're now going to review what you might have had down as your answers for your starter and challenge. So for the starter, obviously the correct way of writing that would be Ant-Man had once again accidentally pushed the button, shrinking himself into miniature form. If you manage that, very well done. For the challenge though, and this is where I'm really testing out how you're thinking about this. This is actually sort of a trick question because both can be used but both create very different effects. If you were using a short, simple sentence, you may be able to build up an immediate sense of pace. And a lot of the time when we're thinking about sentence structures, you want to kind of think about it almost like a piece of music. You're listening to like the sound of the language, the rhythm, the pace that is being built up, whether it seems to build up a sense of urgency, which you can do with really short sentence structures, or whether you're building up a kind of slower, more detailed pace to the piece. Now, with the second option there, a long, complex or compound sentence, it might seem as if that might not be the logical choice for someone wanting to create tension and suspense. We naturally would probably say that a short, simple sentence will build up the tension and suspense. I'm willing to bet that's how you answer the question. And that is true. We can get an immediate sense of pace by using very short, simple sentences that are going to communicate essential information in a fast and tense manner. But a long, complex or compound sentence can actually also develop a sense of suspense. If you think about it, if a longer sentence enables you to really build up the description, then it can build that sense of anticipation that an event is about to occur. So both can be used. It's about how the writer constructs them and how they follow on from one another as to whether or not they are building up effective tension and suspense. So a bit of a tricky starter and challenge there, because I obviously had an agenda, which is to show you that both of those sentence types can actually build up tension and suspense. It depends on how they're used. And that's going to be the kind of area that we're going to examine with Lethal White today, is how she is using her sentence structures and how they follow on in order to develop that sense of tension and suspense. So here we are going to do a really quick run through on sentence types, in case you're not familiar or in case you didn't learn that earlier on. So obviously the basic is the simple sentence form. Please forwards through all of this if you already are pretty confident on your sentence types and you feel like you know how to identify those. So if that is you, you need to skip ahead until we do some textual analysis in a little bit, okay? For those of you that want a brief recap, a simple sentence looks a little bit like this. So I kicked the ball, nice and simple. There's an independent clause there. Okay, so it contains just one simple clause, as you can see in that example there. Okay, so the second type we're going to look at is here, and that's a compound. This is where you can contain two independent clauses. So you can see here, if I move myself a little bit, we have two independent clauses. I kicked the ball and it hit Tom. So I kicked the ball and it hit Tom can both exist separately, but they've been joined together with conjunction and as a result we have a next example I'm showing you here is a complex sentence. This is where you have an independent subordinate clause and a dependent clause, and you can see how it is shown for us illustrated here. We've got Tom cried because the ball hit him. So the ball hit him is dependent upon you understanding that why Tom is crying. So Tom cried because. So in this sentence here, you've got the independent clause to begin, but the dependent clause follows on from that, and this is what we call a complex sentence. Therefore, clearly, a compound complex will look a little bit like this. It contains at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. So if we look at the illustration again, you've got the first independent clause with Tom cried, then you've got the bit that's dependent because the ball hit him, and then the final independent clause, and apologise immediately. Okay, this is a trickier one. You will learn how to spot these. Sometimes you will get a feel that the sentence is a more complex or a compound complex sentence. Immediately, just by visually looking at it on the page, you'll see it's longer, that there are more conjunctions being used, and you will probably be right in saying that it is either complex or compound complex. I'm going to give you a task now, which is going to be to try and write your own compound complex sentence. To do this, it's probably easiest to try and write down your two independent clauses first, and then work out a dependent clause for one of them. Okay, and try and string it together like this. So you're looking at something that looks similar to this. Tom cried because the ball hit him and apologised immediately. Okay, so see if you can construct your own version like that. Right, so having had a go at creating your own sentence structure there, we're now going to have get matching sentence structures up here to the examples that you've been given. And this is just a recap to see whether you've understood and can apply your understanding of the sentence structure work that I've just been through with you. So looking at the examples here on the page, can you work out which is the simple sentence, which the compound, which the complex, and which the compound complex? Match them up now. You'll need to write these out in your book. So you need to write simple sentence equals, and then next to it, I want you to write out from the white boxes which of these you feel fits the example best of a simple sentence. etc., etc., etc. Okay, so pause the video now and have a go at completing that exercise. Right, having had a go at completing that, you'll need to grab your green pen and get ready to go through the answers, okay? So grab a green pen now. I am about to show you the answers. If you're not ready yet, pause the video at this point. Otherwise, here we go. So the answers look like this. Your simple sentence was Ant-Man completed his English essay. Your compound sentence would be Ant-Man completed his English essay and he completed his homework for science. Your complex, although Ant-Man completed his English essay, he still needed to work on his analysis of quotes. And your compound complex, Ant-Man completed his English essay, but still needed to work on his analysis of quotes, even though he finished his work so quickly. Okay, so you should now have a grasp of matching these up. Give yourself a mark out of 4 for the sentence types there. If you got them wrong, go back in the video, revisit the explanations of what each sentence type is, and check that you've thoroughly understood that. Okay, so have a go at doing that now. Okay, so there we go. On the page in front of you now, I'd like you to grab your copy of Legal White and get your highlighters ready. So I've marked up for you, as you can see on the screen here, some different sort of structural techniques that the writer is using in her sentence types. And we're going to go through this now, and I'd like you to think about the questions that are at the bottom on the screen there. What effect do the longer complex sentences have on the reader? And what effect do the short sentences have on the reader? So I have colour-coded my complex compound sentence structures in green. I've got some other techniques highlighted up there, particularly metaphor, simile. In grey are the simple sentence structures, and repetition is in the orange. So for question number 1, I want you to think about the long complex sentences and what purpose you think that they're serving in this extract. So I'm going to read for you just from here, so from the first of our longer compound sentences. Every 10 seconds or so, in what seemed to be an uncontrollable tic, he touched first the end of his nose, which had grown red with repeated tapping, then with a faint hollow thud, the middle of his thin sternum, and let his hand drop to his side. So that's your first complex compound sentence structure to have a look at, okay? So looking at that, what's your view about why she would write it in a longer, more complex sentence type? Why does she not break that into smaller sentence structures? Answer the question now. Jot down some ideas. Why do you think she's chosen a complex sentence structure rather than a short, simple sentence types? Write your answer down. So one of the reasons you might offer is because she's describing the movement that this man is carrying out in a repeated fashion. Having a longer sentence type enables her to mimic the movement that he's demonstrating. And in doing that, the writer is kind of mimicking reality. So the longer sentence almost copies the longer movements that the man is making as he moves his hand uncontrollably between his nose and his chest, almost as if he's crossing himself. Okay? But it's gone wrong, clearly. So you can see there that the type of sentence that the writer is using has got a purpose. It's enabling us to visualise and go through the process of watching the man with his strange and erratic body movements. Okay? Go back now and add anything to your explanation for that use of the longer complex sentence using information I've given you. Try and perfect that first. Pause the video, and then when you're ready, we're going to move on to look at the shorter sentence type. So we're now going to have a look at your shorter sentence types there. We've got over here, you strike, you the detective. This is the final part of the extract that you have. And this is obviously direct dialogue. We are hearing the words spoken by the character, and the character is the man in the middle of the room. We don't know him by any other name at this point, and we know that he's addressing Strike, who's the detective, and that he's using very short, simple sentence structures. You strike, you the detective. And we've got a repetition there of the question that he's raising. So these inquisitive sentence structures are being used, but what is the effect of them? Have a think now. Why have this dialogue from the man in the middle of the room using such short, simple sentence types? You strike, you the detective. Right, jot some ideas down, and then I want you to answer that question. So one of the reasons you might provide here would be that the short, simple sentence structures communicate a sense of urgency or anxiety, perhaps, on the part of the man in the middle of the room. You strike, you the detective. The questioning reveals that he's insistent on ascertaining whether he's speaking to the right man. The fact that he's so focused on only hearing from that man, from Strike, indicates he doesn't know what Strike actually looks like. He hasn't just recognised him. He's hoping this is Strike. But it also indicates that he has privileged information that he only wants to share with that one detective, Strike. And that's the only person that he will trust. So the short, simple sentences shows his anxiety in communicating with Strike's character. And his determination to share some sort of information urgently with just that character. And this implies that there is something significant about Strike and his reputation. Okay, now take some of those ideas that we've shared and add to and improve your answer then on what effect the short sentences have on the reader now. Pause the video and add to that. Okay. So by now you should be ready to write up your paragraph on how sentence types are being used. And looking at this slide here, you can see that I've outlined for you some of the key points that you need to move through in order to do that effectively. So we're following a petal structure like we have for the language question. So it's point, evidence, technique, analysis, and link. And this would be a rough structure of how you could do that. I need to colour that one in for you, really, if it'll let me. Yes, it will. So your point is in yellow here. The writer uses complex compound sentences to drip feed the reader with details of. I want you to try and complete that sentence for me. So the writer uses complex compound sentences to drip feed the reader with details of. Well, we know that that long complex sentence we looked at in the last slide was illustrating the movement of the man in the middle of the room. So you could complete that by saying details of the body movements of the man in the middle of the room. He moves erratically as he moves his hand from his nose to his sternum. Okay. For your second point, you've got to provide your evidence. The sentence slowly builds, and you want to choose a quote to indicate what moment we're building up to here. It's up to you which quote you choose from the extracts that we've looked at together on the last slide. You can always rewind the video and have a check there. But you want to choose one that shows that that we're getting a sense of anticipation, of suspense and tension being built up. For the technique is really simple here. It's kind of in the task. It's to talk about the complex compound sentence type. Okay, so I've put that in blue there for you so you can see it. So this complex compound sentence, and this is your analysis, has the effect on the reader of. So that's where I want you to explain what it does to the reader. So if we know that the complex compound sentence is being used to mimic the lengthy and repetitive actions of this man, touching from his nose to his sternum and back again in a compulsive fashion, then what's the effect of that for us as a reader? Well, it might be to create this sense of enigma about the character. We don't know why he's behaving like he is. It creates that mystery and intrigue for the reader, but it also makes us feel tense because the sentence is drawn out. We're forced to watch the detailed movement of this character, and in doing that, the writer is varying the pace. So even though we anticipate that this is a crime detective piece, we know in the first paragraph we've had a female character who's got her back against the wall screaming that she's, thank God, strikers arrived to try and help the situation. So we've had a lot of action and fast pace. When she hones in on this specific detail of the character's action, touching his nose to his chest, everything is slowed down in time. And in doing that, the writer is actually creating more tension, more suspense as we wonder what might happen. It's like slow motion. Okay, so one of the things you could say in your analysis is that the effect on the reader is to make us pay close attention to the mannerisms of a man and to wonder at the mystery of his behaviour, and that this almost happens in slow motion, as if we're forced to pay attention to every detail, building up tension about what might happen next. Finally, in your link, you want to explain that in this way the use of compound sentences builds an overall sense of tension and mystery in this crime narrative. Okay, right, your task now, having taught you through what to do, is going to be to write up that paragraph. You need to follow the structure that I've given you there. Play back the video to catch all of the details about what you could say to finish off those sentences. You need to find your own quote, but I would strongly suggest that you use the quote that we looked at in the last clip here. So if I move myself out of the way, from every 10 seconds through to his side. All right, because you've got a nice long complex one there. If you don't want to use that one, you've also got some here as well. All right, and then your job is to try and write it up using the structure provided. Okay, good luck. See if you can manage that for today, and that is the end of the lesson. Once you're done on writing your paragraph, go back and tick off where you've included point evidence technique, mentioning the complex compound sentence, your analysis, your explanation of it, and your link. If you have not included all of those, get your green pen now and see if you can add to and improve what you have written. Thanks very much for joining me, guys. Well done.